is going on, everybody? We are back for another edition of car reviews as we're going to work in the morning. So, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We got to see it. Feels very strange to see. I didn't mean to do that, but it feels very strange that we've seen it at this point. It feels a little weird.
No pun intended.
It feels a little weird, that's all I'm saying. Like, it felt like this movie was never actually going to come out. For some reason, I don't know, it was one of those ones where I was like, I remember being in front of the stage at Comic-Con when they were like, this is a real movie that's coming. And then stuff got crazy. Anyway.
Ask me that in 2 weeks when Top Gun comes out. That's the one that I'm going to feel like, holy crap, this is a real movie that's coming out. And I'm watching, because that's the one that I'm gonna, because that's got the same thing. That was Comic-Con. That was like where it's like, hey,
we're finally getting those last like little trickles of Comic-Con movies before everything went crazy. Like, they're all finally starting to come out. But we're going to give our spoiler-free thoughts of Multiverse of Madness. Eventually we'll sit down and do a whole spoiler talk, but listen, as someone who avoided spoilers for this movie and didn't have anything that wasn't put in a trailer of some kind, nothing was spoiled for me in this movie, which is a very unique place to be in this era of trying to watch Marvel movies. So I want to try and keep it that way for those of you who've been lucky enough to be in that boat with me, because it's worth it for sure. So, just basic thoughts to start off with. How did you feel, Jacob?
I liked it. The more I thought about it, the more I've gone, it's good. It's an enjoyable film. I've got issues. I think that it's one of the more messier MCU films in terms of plot structure and in terms of what they're actually trying to do. I do think that it's very messy. There are certain decisions. There's a decision the movie makes very early on that I'm still not 100% sure I agree with. But that's the whole point of the movie. So and I kind of want to see it again to see how I feel about that again. But overall, I think it's an enjoyable film. I liked it. I think it's a good film. There are some incredible sequences in this movie that are really unique and wonderful, that feel like straight out of Sam Raimi. I think it's incredible the amount of restraint this movie actually has, given the subject matter and where it could have gone. I think that it is remarkably restrained, and I think overall I enjoyed it, and I'm interested to see it again and to see how I feel the second time I see it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm definitely someone who wants to see it a second time, just because it's a lot to take in this movie. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing, I'm just saying there's a lot going on in this movie, so it would be nice to sit down and get to kind of just take it in again, now that I've had a little bit of time to sit with it. I definitely think I enjoyed this movie more than you, which is hilarious, because I was terrified to see this movie. Full disclosure, I am not a fan of the What If series, and I was really afraid they were going to go like full What If episode in this movie, and as someone who just did not enjoy that episode, I was worried that's kind of what we were going to get, and I don't think that's a spoiler to say that, personally. Like, it's because looking back, I'm like, why would they do the what if thing all over again if they already did it? Like, that doesn't really make sense. But being me, I was terrified they were going to. But it's definitely its own thing, which is great. It's cool that you can get something like the what if episode, but then you can also get a movie that's like, you know, going off the rails, like doing big things. expanding the multiverse, like exploring the multiverse, and have it be something completely different than what we got, which is cool. But yeah, this movie is, I definitely say it's a bit messy, but I don't really think it bothered me all that much. I feel like the mess kind of gets covered up by the fact that it is the multiverse and it is messy, just in terms of like the story that they're telling.
Yeah.
So I don't think it suffers really a lot from being a bit messy. I do think that it's, again, like you said, it is restrained. It's kind of contained into being, it's contained, but it's still this very grand multiversal kind of story, but they don't go overboard and lose focus on the story they're actually trying to tell. You really like understand what they're trying to do and where they're going with it, while still being on this journey of going through the multiverse, which is really cool. I definitely think it's as dark as they'll go with something, which I think they hit the right balance of, it is a dark movie, especially like for a Marvel movie. It's dark. It does have some horror elements. I wouldn't say it's a horror movie, but it has horror elements in it. It's definitely a bit, I don't know if I would say more violent, but it's more visually violent, because Marvel movies are violent. Like, people die and there's destruction and but like, you see blood and stuff in this movie. Like, it is more visually violent than I think we normally get. But I've seen reviews of people going like, oh, it's horrifying and it's shocking and it's a horror movie, and I don't think I quite agree with that.
There is one sequence, maybe, that I would maybe argue is straight. There's two sequences that are straight out of a horror movie. But again, it's a PG-13 horror movie.
But that's what I mean by their horror elements.
Yeah.
People saying it's a straight up horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't agree with that. I think it's probably as close as Marvel will get to doing a horror movie that's like attached to their main MCU.
Yeah.
But I think Raimi does a great job of bringing those elements in and still making it a story that's going to be accessible to a lot of people. It's not just going to be, it's not so horrifying that that you can't bring certain kids to it, or like.
Yeah.
I think it's right on the edge, though. I do think that if you're going to bring younger kids to it, it's something that maybe you should see first. Just because, like, and again, it's dependent on the individual, but it is pushing the line further than any other Marvel property really has with that kind of content. But I had fun with it. I thought the characters were all great. I thought the cameos we did get were really great. I've seen some criticisms of them being cameos for the sake of cameos, but I disagree. In this story specifically, I don't think that's the case. I think the characters that do make appearances are utilized very well, and they work for how the story's told. I'm not going to say more than that, because again, I don't want to spoil things for any of you that have managed to actually stay away from spoilers like I did. But I think the cameos were utilized well. I think the story they chose to tell makes sense to where Strange and the other characters are in this moment. If you are wanting a full resolution from this movie, or an actual solidified idea of where the universe is going, I'm just gonna say you're not gonna get that. It's definitely another building block towards eventually where this phase is going, which we still don't quite know at this point, but it's definitely just another building block into that.
Yeah, I think we're still definitely in early phase one of where is this story going, and I'm fascinated by. I'm starting to get a little more interested in where it's going, but I'm also like, okay, like, I guess in Marvel I trust with there is a point to all of this. So, yeah.
There were some really visual like visually cool moments, which you would hope for in a movie about the multiverse. There were some moments that felt a little bit wonky, but for the most part, the visual is really cool. There's some really cool sequences. The score is great. Overall, it was a fun time. I had a fun time with it, and I'm excited to do a second watch just to see how I feel now that I've had some time to sit with it, because there's a lot that happens in the film. I'm curious just to kind of see how it sits on a second viewing. But were there any other thoughts you wanted to add before we close out here?
I liked it. That's about it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good movie. I had a good time. And like I said, I'm curious to watch it again. And then we'll sit down and do some real spoiler talk after we've had a chance to digest it a little bit, watch it again. But if you guys have seen the movie, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't, we'd love to hear if you're planning on seeing it, what you're hoping for. Are you excited? Let us know. Because we somehow ended up being among the first couple of screenings in the world to see it, which is really exciting. But now I'm just kind of waiting to be able to talk about it with people. So please send us a message, leave a comment, all that good stuff. All of our links to social media are down in the description if you want to find us. Thank you so much for watching our car review, and we will see you next time.